Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got something really fascinating in front of us. You've basically handed us a whole stack of peer critiques for an AP Art and Design student.
Yep, for her sustained investigation.
Exactly. And our mission really is to sort through all of this feedback, which, can be pretty subjective.
Oh, for sure. Sometimes confusing.
And we're going to translate it into a concrete, scoreable strategy. We want to find that shortcut to creative clarity. So the artist's name is Gia, and her entire investigation, her whole portfolio, is built around one guiding question.
Mm-hmm.
How can I represent how it feels to make connections while not fitting in through art?
And that question is it's so key because the
Yeah.
sustained investigation, the SI, it's the main event.
It's the big work.
It's the big one. We're talking 60% is the total exam score. It's not just about making pretty pictures. You have to show an inquiry-based investigation. You have to prove visually how you grew.
Through practice, experimentation, revision, all that.
Exactly. And this stack of feedback we have, that's the fuel. That's the roadmap for that evolution.
Right. So we're moving past the, oh, I like the colors kind of feedback.
Way past that.
And we're getting to, okay, here are the 3 specific changes you need to make in your next 5 pieces to really nail this.
So before we dive into what her friends said, maybe we should just quickly frame the requirements.
Yeah, good idea. What exactly does she need to turn in?
Okay, so she needs 15 images total. And the key here is that they have to tell a story, a visual narrative.
So not just 15 finished paintings.
No, absolutely not. That's
Yeah.
a huge mistake people make. You have to include process documentation. We're talking sketches, notes, even the failures, the experiments that didn't work out.
Ah, so you show your thinking.
You show your thinking. And then you have those 2 short written prompts where you have to basically explain your question and then describe how your process, your experimentation, actually drove the investigation forward.
So the pictures have to prove what you're writing.
The visual evidence is everything. It has to back up your claims.
Okay, so let's get into the peer responses. From what I'm reading, it seems like the concept is definitely landing, but maybe only half of it.
That is a perfect way to put it. Her peers are absolutely seeing the loneliness, the isolation.
Right. They're using phrases like being your own best friend.
Mm-hmm. And they really pick up on this contrast she's creating, this realistic perspective of oneself versus the cartoonish imaginary styled friends.
So the not fitting in part of her question?
Oh, it's coming through loud and clear. She nailed that. They mentioned things like the bluish palette,
Yeah, and the phone. Everyone's talking about the phone.
the white phone, yeah. It stands out in bed, but no messages. That's pure visual storytelling for isolation. The tension is there.
So the path forward seems kind of obvious then, doesn't it?
It does. If not fitting in is locked in, the next phase of her work has to be about solving the other half of that question.
The making connections part.
Or finding that comfort, as she puts it. The assessor needs to see her work actually evolve past just stating the problem. She has to start exploring the solution visually within the same artwork. And that's critical. If she just makes 5 more pieces that look like the first set, she's not showing growth.
She's just duplicating.
Exactly. So she has to resolve that tension she's built. Let's start with the formal stuff. Color and composition. That's usually the easiest place to start showing change.
And her peers were actually really sharp on this. So many of them pointed to the color and the composition as the things that were really creating that feeling of isolation. That white phone, for example. He said its lighting or its brightness just makes it the center of everything. It just pulls your eye right to the symbol of loneliness.
And it works. It's effective. Same with the really bluish palette.
Yeah.
It sets the mood perfectly.
But if the whole point is to find comfort inside that loneliness, you can't just stick with blue.
You can't. The color has to represent that shift in feeling.
Okay, so the practical application here is what? Start introducing warmer colors.
Yes, but strategically. The feedback literally says she should use warmer tones and different shades to create deeper feelings.
But how does she do that without, ruining the mood she's already created? It can't just go from this lonely blue to, like, sunshine and rainbows.
That's a great question. The growth has to feel earned. It has to be subtle. She doesn't need to get rid of the blue. That's her foundation. That's the not fitting in.
So she builds on top of it.
She builds on it.
Wow.
Maybe she introduces like a soft amber glow just around the cartoon friend figure. Or she starts working some subtle pinks and magentas into the shadows of the room.
Ah, so you're using color to separate the two figures, the two feelings.
Exactly. You use those warmer colors to visually mark the space of the comfortable internal connection, and you keep the realistic self in that cooler, more isolated space. That change in color and value, that's a documented experiment.
That makes a ton of sense. So if color can start to solve the comfort side, let's talk about the bigger challenge. How does she make that contrast more dynamic?
Right.
We're getting into material and technique now, and you said this is where students can really show growth for the AP assessors.
Oh, absolutely. This is where the gold is for her score. And her peers, they really pushed her here.
The suggestions were all over the place, from just use other materials to something really specific.
It kept coming back to mixed media, using different styles to hammer home that internal split.
And they got so specific. The idea of a realistic person contrasted with a cartoonish happy person.
Yes, and then one student gave her a total game changer.
The digital and physical mix.
The digital and physical mix. Paint the realistic person on a real canvas, then create the cartoon friend digitally, and then print that digital piece and put it onto the canvas.
Wow.
That suggestion, if she pulls it off and documents it well, that is exactly the kind of observable transformation the portfolio is looking for.
Because it's not just a style choice.
It's a conceptual choice. By using a different medium digital, which is clean, easily changed, less, tangible for the imaginary friend.
She's visually saying that this connection exists on a different plane of reality.
A completely different plane from her isolated, physically painted self. It's brilliant.
Okay, but that's a huge process leap. Blending digital and physical work like that. How does she prove that it was an intentional process of practice, experimentation, and revision? How does she stop the assessors from just thinking she, photoshopped two separate things together?
That is the single most important question she has to answer with her documentation. She has to show her work, the messy parts. So for a piece like that, the documentation has to include everything.
The initial sketches.
The sketches, photos of the physical canvas being painted, screenshots of her creating and editing the digital layer.
And then pictures of her actually printing it out and putting it on the canvas.
Yes. She has to prove her hand was in the synthesis of those two media. That deliberate step-by-step process is the evidence. That's her inquiry evolving right there.
Yeah.
And since we're talking about digital elements, we have to talk about the administrative side of things.
The citation rule.
The citation rule. It is absolutely non-negotiable.
And every student using digital tools needs to know this.
Mandatory. If Gia uses any digital elements that she didn't create from scratch, so stock photos, still images from a movie, even a royalty-free texture.
For reference, for collage, for anything.
For anything. She has to provide a short citation. It's a hard limit, 100 characters max. You just note the type of use-like reference or inspiration and the source.
And this is true even if it's copyright-free.
Even if it's from a site like Unsplash or Pexels. It's about ethical practice and avoiding any hint of plagiarism. You just have to attribute your sources. It's a simple step that can save you a world of trouble.
Okay, so we have the technical path forward, color shifts, mixed media, and the compliant stuff like documenting and citing. Let's circle back to the meaning. Her peers weren't just giving technical fixes. They were talking about how those fixes could actually make the concept stronger.
Exactly. And we don't need to get bogged down in, academic art speak here.
No, please.
But the students were basically pushing her towards a deeper use of visual language. When they suggested she think about the symbolic meaning of the cartoon versus the realistic self, they were asking her to be more intentional.
So she's already set up these two visual rules. Realistic equals isolated, cartoon equals comfort.
Yes. And now she has to follow those rules and deepen them. By using different materials and different color languages for each, she's making that conceptual contrast even more powerful.
So let's distill this. For her next 5 pieces, what does Gia need to do? It sounds like she needs to show documented risk-taking.
That's a great way to put it.
So 1, she has to document her process. That means photos and notes that prove she tried the digital-physical mix, that she tested those warmer tones.
And show the failures, too. The sketches that didn't work, the material tests.
Okay. And 2,
2, she needs to show risk-taking in the imagery itself. She has to revise the concept and move it forward.
so maybe move away from the isolated phone imagery.
It's strong, but she's done it. It's established. The next phase could be showing the two figures, the real self and the friend, in a shared space.
Oh, interesting.
Like in the same room. But maybe she renders the realistic self in her half of the room in that cool physical paint, and the friend in their half of the room with that warm digital collage style.
So you're showing the internal friction, that connection, while not fitting in, through the way the space itself is constructed.
Now you're talking.
Yeah.
That shows she listened, she revised her strategy, and she's continuing to investigate.
Okay, so the synthesis feels really clear now. The peer critiques, they nailed the strength, which was the contrast of the self. But they also found the gap, which was the missing visual evidence for connection and comfort. So her next step is just intentional, documented experimentation. Testing the mixed media, bringing in those deliberate color shifts, and putting her characters into new, more complex compositions.
And that's it. A successful, sustained investigation is not just a gallery of pretty finished pieces. It is a visual story of an idea evolving over time. The focus has to stay laser sharp on that guiding question. Any new technique, any weird material she tries, it has to clearly relate back to her investigation of connection and belonging.
She has to show the assessors that she didn't just repeat a successful formula.
She has to show them she listened to the feedback and allowed that inquiry, that question, to truly drive the work into a new place.
So a final provocative thought for you to take away from this. If the goal of the SI is to show evolution, what visual evidence beyond the beautiful, polished final product will you create and curate to prove that you genuinely listened to critiques and risked failure to discover something new? Remember that entire documented process. That's the art.